Hey folks, welcome to another VR related video. Earlier in the week I did a review of the MetaQuest Pro, and I wanted to get a review of another product out before I went to CES and potentially had my judgment clouded. So the other product in question is this one right here. This is the Pico 4. The Pico 4 is a headset that I picked up that I had to import from Europe in order to purchase, and it's kind of strange because I use the Quest Pro as a headset that I would say is my daily driver. It is my preferred headset, but the easiest headset for me to pick up and play is the Pico 4. From boot time to in-game, almost that fast. It's not really. There's still some boot graphics. There's still a little bit of boot time, but it's so much easier to get into a game, to get into an experience, even to get into virtual desktop than using the Quest platform. The Quest platform over time, we're at revision, I think 47 or 48 at this point of the firmware, and as they built on top of that firmware, they haven't really optimized it. So it's very slow from power on to getting into an experience. And I find myself grabbing the Pico 4 if I want to try something quickly instead of the Quest Pro. And I find that kind of interesting. The device itself is pretty cool. I really have enjoyed my time with it. I feel like this was a worthy investment. I did pick this up from XR Shop in Spain, and I've had no qualms. The headset works as intended, and it gives me a slightly better experience than I would have with the Quest 2. It has pancake lenses. It's a lighter headset by far than either of the other headsets that I use on a regular basis, and it works great. The library, slightly lacking from the Quest 2. Or the Quest platform, if you will, because the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro share their platform. One of my primary drawbacks with the Pico 4 is the fact that if I wanted to play cross-play, for example, with a game like Demeo, I can't do that between a Pico headset and a PC or a Pico headset and a Quest. And that really disappoints me. The software versioning on the Pico headset seems to be a little bit behind the other platforms. And I think that may just be because of restrictions, because of kind of the scrutiny that they have to go through on the Pico platform for approval. This happened in the past with the PSVR versus PC VR and things of that nature. So it's not uncommon, but I really hope that that improves in the near future, because the Pico 4, for many games, I pick up and play and enjoy and don't have any friction to that enjoyment. The controllers themselves, slightly different from what you see on a Quest platform control. It's got this outer ring. I don't prefer it to the Touch Pro, but it's not bad. They also have a button here for screenshots, in addition to the menu buttons. They work functionally about the same as the Quest 2 controllers. They have the same levels of occlusion and things of that nature, I would say. But they work quite well. And any experience that I've thrown at the Pico 4 has worked. Their games are essentially Quest ports, unfortunately, for the most part. The one game that I have tried that is not is called Survival Nation, and that particular game, I believe, is coming to Steam and eventually to Quest as well. It's a survival zombie horror style title. It's fun, but it's not a reason I would pick up this particular device. Why I would pick up this device is, again, pancake lenses, not as good as the Quest Pro, but at a very, very diminished price point compared to the Quest Pro. The comfort factor, it's very light. The headset itself doesn't really feel like there's much of anything on my head. It does have a top strap. That top strap makes a ton of difference, believe it or not. The battery is contained in the back here as opposed to the front, so it's pretty well balanced when you're wearing it on your head. I will say, though, this facial cushion, not the greatest on earth. I don't know if you can tell, but mine is already starting to like pill up the fabric. And I've only had it for a couple of months. So I think from a facial interface perspective, you can probably pick up a third-party one and have no qualms. Sound quality is pretty good coming from the downward firing speakers. I'm a little weirded out at the fact that there is no 3.5 millimeter jack, but it works. It functionally lets me throw on the headset, hit the power button, and be in game within seconds. And that makes it a headset that I would heartily recommend if it's available in your market, and if you're not looking to have every standalone experience available. I also recommend it highly if you're looking to explore 3D and immersive video content. The Pico platform kind of embraces that with Pico Video, whereas I don't see as much of that content on the Quest platform. Horizon Worlds venues, all of the video is actually in a 2D, usually 180-degree shot film footage. While the social features are starting to improve in Horizon Worlds, the overall video presentation still in 2D, not stereoscopic 3D. It just feels behind the times. And it's felt that way the entire time with Horizon Worlds. I am excited that Pico has already started to embrace that 3D immersive video content. In China, if you pick up a Pico device, you can actually watch people live stream in 3D. Like it's there, it's present, it's relevant to their platform. I recently got to watch the G Idols, and I don't know if that's the correct name of the band. G Idol, I think, is the correct name, but it might just be Idol performance. They're a K-pop band. They did a full 10-song set with little interstitials in between. It felt like I was in the front row of a concert. And that's the type of experience that I want when I'm picking up a VR headset to watch content. I don't want to sit and watch something that I can just watch flat on a PC screen and have the same type of experience. I don't necessarily want to have a social experience when I'm watching a concert. That's why platforms like Amaze are things that I really appreciate, because they do embrace that 3D light interactive element experience. And Pico is doing that same thing with their Pico video platform. And they're sponsoring and supporting people who create that type of content. So if you're looking to get into 3D and immersive video, or exploring others' 3D and immersive videos, Pico is a platform that I would absolutely recommend. And in this case, over the Quest platform for sure. Again, controllers work well. I never installed the wrist straps for these particular controllers because for some reason they just, they stay in my hands. I can't really explain it. They do sell different grips and different wrist straps and things of that nature, but I've just been picking these up and playing without any concerns. I like the screenshot features. I like the way that it works with casting, and I like the internal recording features. They give you different options, which work really well for people like me as a content creator, and I appreciate that. As far as applications that I've purchased, I've shown pretty much all of the ones that I've purchased on the channel so far. I feel like I just don't want to pick up games and experiences that I've already got on the Quest platform. I love the fact that there are hundreds already of titles available on the Pico 4 that you can pick up and play, and they play just as well as the Quest 2. I think there's only one example so far where it might be an improved experience over the Quest 2, and that's kind of important. The Red Matter 2 port for Pico has some improvement because it's using the additional processing power that's available on the Pico 4. And I think it might have tweaked resolution as well. But everything else, even though the Pico 4 has higher spec resolution, is still really a Quest port. It's not taking advantage of the additional, while limited, features of the Pico 4. It's really just playing a Quest game, essentially, but mapped to the Pico controllers using the Pico API. And that kind of disappoints me. I know it's still early on, it's still early days. A lot of these games were available for the Pico Neo 3, which was very similar specs to the Quest 2, and the Pico 4 has only been out for a number of months. But I'd like to see more experiences take advantage of the Pico 4 and the power that it enables, the resolution bump, the slightly higher processing power. Virtual Desktop works amazing with the Pico 4. If you're looking to get into just PC VR and you want a lower cost headset versus the Quest Pro, and you don't really care about standalone that much, the Pico 4 is a great buy. I think that the Pico 4 is probably the headset that I would recommend if it was available at a decent price point in the United States to folks that are looking to dabble in PC VR for the first time. But from a standalone perspective, you can't beat the library of the Quest platform. You just really can't. And the feature set is not that different. They're basically the same device, but there's a slight resolution bump and a much better comfort with the Pico 4. The Pico 4's pancake lenses, again, are not as good, in my opinion, as the Quest Pro, but they're not bad either. They're I'd say on par or slightly better than the old Gear VR, if you ever tried one of those. And that is a positive. I think that's still a good design piece that the folks at Pico went when they were designing this particular device. One of the things that I will say is also a drawback with the Pico 4 is battery life. Of the 3 headsets that I've been using recently, the Quest Pro, Quest 2, and Pico 4, the Quest 2 probably lasts the longest in headset, the Quest Pro second longest, and the Pico, from a huge perspective, falls in third. I was watching that G-Idle performance the other day, and I had some buffering, so the performance itself is around an hour. I got through about 45 minutes of it. And granted, it was probably an hour and 5 minutes, and the headset just cut off completely. I freaked out because I didn't get any type of low battery warning or anything. I thought I had killed my Pico 4. And in reality, no, it was just the battery had died that quickly. So depending on what you're using it for, if you're heavily using Wi-Fi on it, which is what I was doing when I was streaming a concert, it eats battery like candy. So I don't know. I have not tested it with an external battery pack. I don't know if you put a battery pack on it or if you put a battery pack in your pocket and ran a cable to it, if that improves things that much. I don't know if it continues to discharge when you put on a battery pack, but that battery life is kind of a deal breaker, particularly if you're using the device primarily for PC VR. If you're using it for standalone applications and you're just jumping in and jumping out, if you use it kind of like you would a mobile device, if you were using a mobile phone, you're not typically playing games for hours and hours. You're using a console for that or a PC for that. I've been treating my Pico 4, this one right here, like a mobile device. I'll jump in, I'll play for a few minutes of content, I'll get my VR fix for that afternoon, typically on a break or at lunch or things of that nature. I'll put it aside. I grab it every once in a while just to do some stress relief. Maybe play some Intrasend, maybe play some Bait or some Demio. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun platform. It's not necessarily the platform that I would use on a daily basis, but I've really enjoyed my time using it. And again, I have no regrets in purchasing it. I'm really excited that a quality competitor is out there that can go head to head with the Quest 2 in the market. I just hope it gets to all of the markets that the Quest 2 is in. Pico also had an interesting strategy where they gave away 6 great titles as part of their holiday promotion, whereas the Quest 2 gave away 2 titles. So Pico was basically giving people a library of titles immediately. Pico also has a bunch of demo titles available, so if you wanted to play games and you don't have any money up front, there's a couple of great demos available that you can pick up right now and load on the headset. It feels very much like when the original Oculus Quest launched, because again, you had 5 demos you could download. It was easy to launch into games on it. I don't think it necessarily had that quick PC connectivity, but Virtual Desktop was already ready to do that at launch as well. So I can see a lot of parallels between what the Pico 4 does and what it offers to when we had the original Quest a few years back. And I'm excited about that because I think as Pico iterates on this particular device, alongside Meta Quest iterating on the Quest 2 and Quest Pro in the future, these are all things that help the VR ecosystem. You'll have choices in the market of what you'd like to pick up. I like the Pico 4. It is not my primary headset of choice, but it's a fun device at a great price. And if you live in a market that actually sells the device, there's some great content available on Pico Video. I get locked out of a lot of it being in the United States, to be perfectly honest. I had to use a VPN and sneak into the G-Idle performance at the beginning of the year. But Wave is going to have concert performances. There's a bunch of like silly things like gift wrapping. There was a gift wrapping channel right before the holiday season where you could actually watch people wrapping their holiday gifts and sharing stories. Like just silly 3D video that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have, that you can consume and be immersed by in this headset. And that's all primarily exclusive to the Pico brand. So the Pico 4 to me is more than just a gaming device. It's a device to consume content. It's similar, like I said, in a lot of ways to me picking up a mobile phone, but with the immersive nature of virtual reality. The color pass-through on the Pico 4. Some people have applauded the fidelity of the graphics. Like, it's such a better picture than the Quest Pro. And while it's a better picture, it is a monoscopic image. It is a color feed with little to no stereo effect. So even though there are pass-through games and applications available, Gravity Sketch and Fruit Ninja are the 2 that I've tried, it feels like you're passing through a 2D image to your eyes with a 3D environment. And that's hard to describe without you seeing it. But imagine playing Fruit Ninja on a flat screen in front of you, maybe your phone, and maybe you have pass-through through it. And so you can see like what I'm looking at right now. When I'm staring at the camera, you can see that camera in front of you. That's what it feels like playing that Fruit Ninja experience. It feels like I'm playing a 2D version of Fruit Ninja in virtual reality, and it's really uncomfortable. So that pass-through, not something I really enjoy. It's unfortunate because I feel like this could very well be a competitor in a lot of ways to what the Quest Pro offers in a limited fashion. Obviously, there's no eye tracking, there's no facial tracking. The hand tracking is pretty rough, to be honest. I've tried through the dev settings to set up the hand tracking, and A, it doesn't really work with any games yet in the Pico 4, but B, it's mostly just gestures, simple gestures at that, similar to the gestures that are used for navigation on the Quest 2 and Quest Pro. So hand tracking is not something that I would say is even comparable to what the Quest 2 and Quest Pro offer. Is it better in all ways to the Quest 2? No. Is it better in enough ways that it's a strong competitor to the Quest 2? I think so. And I think especially if you're interested in immersive video and 3D, this is a headset that I would say I would encourage picking up, particularly as they continue to build out their 3D and immersive video library. Right now, even that video library is kind of territorial locked. In China, they've got like full-blown major motion pictures that you can actually download and watch or stream and watch in 3D on the headset. In markets where the headset is being aggressively sold, there are concert experiences, there are other experiences that you can tune into live. And in Asian markets primarily so far, they've got these like actual like live streamers happening as well, similar to what you'd see on Twitch or YouTube, but it's them sitting in a room. I saw a lot of people singing, or they'd switch to a 2D feed of a video game, but then they'd switch back to them every once in a while in 3D, and it worked pretty well. And it's cool to see that. And I think, you know, as someone that has slowly become a 3D enthusiast as well as a VR enthusiast, that's something that I see as a huge potential in any VR headset, and Pico has embraced that. So if you're looking for that type of content, I would say the Pico 4 is definitely a great value. If you look at the price point between the Pico 4 and the Quest 2, it's very close. And it is a tough decision if you live in a market that both devices are available. I would say at the current time, the Quest 2 has a much larger library, but it's harder to get to. Like I said, if you get into the Pico 4, you can be playing a game within seconds. Whereas with the Quest 2, while it's got more features and more refined features at that, it's slower to jump into a game or an experience. If you have a 15-minute break, 14 of those minutes can be used playing a game in Pico. It might be 12 or 13 in the Quest 2. It's not that big of a deal, but it is to me. So take a look at the libraries that are available. I'll actually put a link to the list of games and apps available for the Pico 4, so you can see that in the description of this video. If the Pico 4 is available where you're at and you like the library of titles, and you're not concerned about Quest exclusives, and you're not concerned about having the biggest library of titles available on standalone, might be one to consider, especially if you're looking for 3D and immersive video content. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will be back with more content soon. I'll be at CES in a couple of days. So I will be working with my wife to capture footage of what we see and do during the weekend days of CES, Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully next week you'll get to see some of that content on the channel, and a brief look, or maybe an extensive look, at what the future of VR and AR might be. But I do hope you liked the current state of VR that I shared this week. Until next time, get out there and enjoy some VR for yourself, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.